might be kind of confusing to some of you. I promise I'm not clickbaiting you. It's just, oh. I thought this would be smooth. So the title is true, but it's also not true for everyone. It's a response to the hundreds of messages I've gotten saying, Jesse, what LUTs do you use? I would like to buy them. I need this look. And I just see this conversation online all the time where the assumption is most of the look that people are getting in their grades and in their videos and in their films comes from a LUT. And it's just not true. And in this video, I'm gonna tell you why that's not true, why I still use them a little bit, and I'm gonna break down for you my color correction, color grading workflow. So let's do that. Brandon, I gotta talk to you. Do you have any LUTs? Have you ever bought any LUTs?
I've never purchased LUTs.
Have you ever downloaded any LUTs?
I have.
Are they good?
No.
Alright, I gotta ask you a question. Have you ever purchased LUTs?
Yes.
How did they work?
I don't use them very much.
Okay, great.
Maybe you felt like Brandon or like Mike or even like I have, in that you see these other people's footage and it looks so good and you just wonder to yourself, why doesn't my footage look like that? And you're hoping that the one thing it's missing is LUTs. So you go online, or maybe you go to your favorite content creator's website and you download their LUTs. Also, I'm definitely not throwing any shade on these guys. I think they make some of the best wedding film work. They just happen to be locals here in Toronto and they just put out LUTs, so I'm gonna buy them right now. Unzip them. So you load those LUTs into your computers right away, grab the most recent footage you've shot, throw it on top, and wow. I'm gonna be honest with you, their LUTs look pretty great. If I was smarter, I'd be releasing a LUT pack along with this video, but I'm not. Okay, so maybe you've gotten some other LUT pack, movie-inspired look, and you think, oh, I loved the movie Dunkirk, and you put that LUT on, and all of a sudden, oh, that doesn't look like Dunkirk at all. You might even try dialing it back, and you can't really find a sweet spot, and so you start correcting. Maybe you add some more color onto this, and you think, well, it's too contrasty, so let's lift up the shadows. Well, that doesn't look good. Lift up the mids and put the shadows back down. And for whatever reason, it just never seems to deliver on the promise that that LUT pack seemed to have been making. So I'm gonna show you my color grading workflow when it's my own footage, and then after that, I'm gonna download footage from a bunch of other cameras that I didn't shoot and show you how I would match footage that doesn't belong to me. I've used these techniques in previous weddings where I had to match a GH5, a C100, an A7S II, and an M50. 4 totally different cameras with totally different color profiles, and in the end, I think I did a really good job. So when I'm getting started with my color correction, I always throw on a layer of color wheels and then I throw on a LUT, and you'll see why in a second. There are these other LUTs that I've used from other wedding cinematographers called White in Reverie, and same thing, you toss it on, it's probably not gonna look great. Now the reason I put my color wheels beneath this is because I'm trying to set my contrast and my white balance first. Ideally, these LUTs were made to affect footage that were proper white balance, proper exposure. So if you didn't get those right in camera, that's the first reason a LUT is not going to work for you. These are not meant to fix your footage. They're meant to say, greens should be roughly this hue, reds should be roughly this hue, blues should have this much saturation, your white point should end here, black point should end here, etc., etc. But if you've already shot your footage way too warm or way too green, the LUT doesn't know that. So you want to fix that first, give that your color correction, and then you can start messing with the look. So a shot like this, I would pull up my scopes, and I always use 2 scopes. That's this vector scope here and this RGB parade. If you don't know what these are, I don't really have time to go through it with you, but I think watching me grade along with this is gonna help you with that. So typically I start by taking this LUT and I turn it down to like 40, 50%, something like that. And then I'll jump into those color wheels and I'll start lifting the highlights until we're getting closer to clipping without actually clipping, unless you have to. There are absolutely times where you just have to blow out parts of your image in order to salvage that information in the shadow and in the mids. Next, I'm gonna take those shadows, I'm gonna bring them down to closer to clipping, but not quite. 100 is fully blown out, 0 is fully crushed blacks, anything above is gone, anything beneath is gone. And then I'll usually just mess with my mids in order to find my contrast. A shot like this, because we are sitting in the shadow here, I might actually lift the mid-tones and then bring that shadow back down just to add that contrast back in. And I'm looking for my white balance. You can slide it around, see where it fits. And then I just want to correct the skins. Now a shot like this isn't too bad. What is too bad is that I missed focus. Okay, so let's get another shot. Assuming I had gotten this grade exactly to where I want it, I would copy everything on there and paste it over. Now you're gonna see it looks pretty bizarre, but this is the first step for all of my color grading. I actually correct and grade as I edit. It's probably not the right way to do it, but I just like it. The image is sitting a bit too warm. There's skins going a bit there, but also because we're in the forest, that sunlight is bouncing off a lot of the greenery, and so we're probably gonna have to shift a little magenta, and you can see that here. So this is our vector scope, and right along here, this is what's called the flesh line. And basically, regardless of ethnicity, age, all that kind of stuff, most people's skin should line up right around that flesh line, and that's showing if skins are too green, too magenta. So I'm also fixing that most of the time with my white balance. So you can see as I shift to purple, that blob heads too far away. And as I shift towards green, it's heading the other way. So you're looking to line this up right around there. Still a bit bizarre. I'd probably still cool it down a bit, lower these mids a bit, maybe give it a bit more saturation for life. You know, and here's what we're looking at. It's overall, it looks pretty good, and I'll tell you what, it's a heck of a lot better than had I just taken the footage, tossed the LUT on and said, what? It's broken. The reason that I do still use LUTs, and specifically LUTs from wedding cinematographers, wedding photographers whose work that I think is really good, is not necessarily to create a look, but it actually helps find a nice color palette within the image, because it knows greens roughly to this hue will match up with skin tones roughly in this hue, and blues with this much saturation, and it's helping me just clean things up a little bit. But you'll see, even if I turn the LUT off, it's not a huge difference that it's making. It's kind of that last 5–10% of the image. Some people might even prefer it without the LUT, but step one has to be getting that image color correct. That's your white balance, your exposure, skin tones. Get all of that right. The other thing is that to begin with, your shot just has to be good. You know, if you wore some hideous green shirt while you're in this green forest, there's no LUT that's gonna help you to pop off the background. You're always gonna be somewhat camouflaged into it. So don't expect LUTs to perform magic. It's still your job to get your exposure and your white balance right, to have good composition, to have good lighting, and for your colors in your shot to be visually pleasing to begin with. Sometimes what you're gonna find though is that the footage itself might have a color that just doesn't sit well with you. So maybe these shorts are just looking a bit too neon for the shot. Rather than starting to search for other LUTs, what I would do at this point is turn on a hue saturation curves layer. So I use this hue saturation curves panel in Final Cut Pro 10. And what I'm gonna do first, I'm gonna use this eyedropper tool, and I'm just gonna select this color, and that's gonna fall, you know, in the cyan color. And hopefully we're not gonna get too much green with this, because you can now take this hue and push it kind of wherever you want. If you push it too far, the image is just gonna fall apart, so be careful with that. But maybe you just want it to match his backpack a little bit, and you could do a similar thing now with both the hue, or the saturation, and the luma. So now this layer has actually just helped make those shorts a little bit less. So now, rather than look for a LUT that's somehow gonna magically fix those shorts, I'm gonna fix that myself. But listen, I shot all of this footage myself. So I knew roughly what white balance range to be in, and I'm familiar with all my cameras. I know how they act. But sometimes you're gonna be working with second shooters or people that mess up their white balance, use a different profile, expose it incorrectly, and you may still have to fix that footage. So what are you gonna do? And for that answer, we've teamed up with a sponsor. It's Storyblocks. You probably saw that coming. Storyblocks, as always, is a fantastic resource for all things video elements. That's Foley, music, stock footage, After Effects elements, textures, backgrounds, all sorts of things to elevate the quality of your production. So let's just dive into their website, download some clips, and see how we can make those work. Literally, if you can think of a shot, it's on Storyblocks. It's kind of absurd. Ooh, that's a slow-mo frog jumping into water. Okay, not what we need. All right, head back over to Final Cut, import this footage. Let's use some of these old footages as our reference point. Again, we're gonna just paste on all the effects, and it is gonna look absolutely atrocious. We're gonna start, let's just reset these parameters. Now I can see right off the bat, this image is too cool and probably too green. So as we warm this up and throw in some magenta, these greens are starting to look a lot more like the ones in the forest I was actually in. Brighten this up a bit and probably desaturate it just a hair. Drop it down. Often my last step is to just tweak that LUT slider and see where I like it. So I'd be happy to cut a shot like this into my sequence. I don't think that would stand out. That wasn't terribly difficult, but perhaps you get a shot like this. Okay, honestly, this shot just may be absolutely beyond repair, but let's see what we can do. There's just way too much saturation. These greens are going nuclear, so most of that saturation is gonna be in the highlights, so I'm gonna try and pull that back, but we are really gonna need to deal with these blues. I'm just gonna pull so much blue saturation out of this shot. Just wow, these are so far apart. We're gonna get it there though, we're gonna get it somewhere. So you'll see I do a lot of back and forthing between all of the panels, trying to get it into a look that's somewhat similar. I'm gonna try just adding one more color wheels onto this, but I'm gonna mask all of this down here because this water is it's just nothing like what we were seeing. It's getting closer. I mean, if we turn off these effects, it's like, whoa, oh my gosh. You know, I can't even believe how far we've come. And most of that has been using the same LUT to help push tones into similar directions, but also finding out those problematic areas, those neon greens and neon blues, and dealing with those. So if I can have two shots like this and not completely feel like they are different colors in the way that it would have before, to me that's a win. If you want to learn more or check out more of what Storyblocks has to offer, there's a link down in the description. Click it. They might just have the shots you're looking for to fill out your production. If you've enjoyed this video at all, if you learned something, I would really appreciate a thumbs up. If you want to see more like this, please do subscribe, turn on the little notification thing, because some people tell me it works. If you have more questions about how I like to grade, please feel free, leave them in the comments. I'm gonna try and answer as many as possible. And see you soon? Yeah, see you soon.